Hey, morning guys. This morning, you can hear them. It's pretty loud. I'm on a gravel road leaving my house. This morning, I'm headed to PMI, and they're gonna finish up balancing the rotating assembly on my 6-liter. So I'm gonna go in there this morning, film a little bit. We're gonna try to ask some questions. Brian will probably answer a lot of questions, and we're just gonna show you the process a little bit. We're gonna try to get several different, that way the start, beginning, or start, middle, and end. That way you guys kind of have an idea of what's going on, because I have an idea how it works, and I understand that it works a lot like a tire balancer, you know, for your car. But I've never actually seen it in person, and I think it'd be really cool. So anyway, hold tight and we'll go check it out. Hey guys, I'm in PMI and we are at my crank here, getting ready to balance it, and I'm with Brian of PMI, and we're going to go over a little bit of how to balance the crank. We're not going to get too in detail, but basically from the way I think I'm understanding this is he's going to start out with balancing either end of it, and he's going to get that within spec, and then he's going to balance it as a whole. That way, basically think of it like a tire running down the road. You want this tire, if you're feeling, say you're feeling an imbalance at 55, your tire's shaking at 55,
right,
and you take it into the mechanic puts it on the balancer, and it is so much out. He's going to add or take away weight to try to fine tune that balance.
right.
That way,
to reduce the balance down, so it's not so dynamic, you know, so you don't feel it.
You're going, it very rarely can you get anything perfect.
Correct. You're not balancing it to zero. I mean, you always have some imbalance. I mean, nothing's perfect. But what you're trying to do is reduce the amount of unbalance there is to where it's so minute that you're not feeling it.
So then, like a tire,
especially at higher RPM.
Higher RPM, okay. So in like a wheeler tire, you're trying to get it to where it runs smooth, wears evenly, helps with efficiency running down the road. Whereas the crank, ideally, if I was just to put in stock rods, stock pistons, and put everything back together, I probably wouldn't need to do this really. But since I'm going with aftermarket rods, we de-lift the piston, so we change the weight of everything. I'm running a different flex plate and different balancer on the front. I've changed the weight of everything. So basically, it's like putting a new set of tires on your wheels. You need to bring everything together, make sure it wears
everything work
correctly.
together. And correct.
Correct. So
it's possible you can put it all on and it works. Maybe you wouldn't notice it, but any out of balance is going to make it wear, you know, abnormal.
And the amount of, I mean,
the money you spend,
even a set of tires,
you should balance.
You should balance them. That way, you know, the time you spent, the money you're putting into it, you're not going to have to put new tires on or put new bearings in, or you know, you spin an engine up fast enough, it could blow up. So you don't want that to happen. So so no, very cool. I guess we'll get started. Are you going to show a little bit of?
Yeah, what I'll show you here is this is a 1970 machine. So this is an analog machine, which to me is a better machine because you can actually see what's happening, and a computer just doesn't tell you what it thinks it is. I can actually see what's going to go on here. But we're going to be looking at these lower numbers on the red, and these are inch ounces out. This is like 2 inch ounces out. If I go to times 10 or something, then you go up to these other numbers. But what we're trying to accomplish is stock usually should be around 0.5 if you're doing a stock balance job. Performance balance job is probably 0.25, and I always balance everything from here down. You know, so my window of what I want to finish at is down here. You know, and it's touchy right here. So I mean, it gets real from here to here. It's real touchy.
Kind of shakes. Yeah, sometimes.
But most jobs are stock range up into here, which this one is too. You know, so I'm gonna fire it up, spin it. I've I've got it on the left side. And the machine's all set up and everything, you know, to calculate this, so. And turn the strobe light on. You can kind of see where the light is, where it's kind of telling me where it's at. And you can see that the RPMs are starting to range up, and I'm going to go to 600 RPM, which faster. Slow back down a little bit. So you can kind of see where I'm. So I want to be right around 600 RPM. You see how much just a little bit of changes on the RPM. So I'm sitting at 560 and it's way down. So it's lying to you. It's not where we need to be. So I need to get back up to 600. So as it's creeping up here, we see that we're sitting about, you know, just a little out of stock. You know, that's really good. So I would say that it's an inch ounce out. And then I'm going to look at the crankshaft, and you can see it's sitting about 9 o'clock on the thing. So there's that. So we're going to switch to the other side.
Okay, we're on the left side there.
We're on the left side.
Okay,
we got the right side locked. That's the balancer side.
Okay.
So now we're going to go to the other side.
Oh, wow.
Slow down a little bit, and then we'll speed back up.
Hey, so I wanted to stop the video right here and explain, or try to explain, kind of the stuff that Brian is going over, the different kind of unbalance that the crank can have. So he keeps talking about static and dynamic. And I was trying to figure out a way for me to explain it. I can grasp the concept or the idea of each kind of imbalance and how they can both play into causing an issue or causing an unbalance in the crankshaft and how to repair it. But rather than me sit here and try to explain it just like I am right now, I found a video on YouTube called from a company called Acoem USA, and I'll put the link right here, and I'll have a link, or I'll have the name right here where the video came from, the company, and then I'll have a link in the description. That way you can click on that link. Go to that link after this video. That way you can watch that and understand what happened, or maybe watch that and come back to the video and watch it. So this video goes over static, coupled, and dynamic unbalance. And you have to have, from what I'm understanding from the video, you have to have coupled unbalance to have dynamic unbalance. And Brian keeps talking about static and dynamic. And so he's going to, from the way I think I'm figuring this out, is where he's balancing the left side of the crank and the right side of the crank. He's statically balancing, kind of splitting that crank in half. And then he's dynamic balancing that crank. And that way you can get a much smoother running crank and everything runs great together. You can have long-term success with your crankshaft, no premature bearing failure or bearing wear or anything like that. So go check out that Acoem YouTube video. That way you guys can understand and make a better judgment on whether you need to have your crank balanced or not. That way you can have good success building your engine. Let's get back to the video.
Alright, so the crazy thing here is that the imbalance is on the same side. So now you do have the lump effect for sure.
Okay.
Like a log, and one side's heavy and it's just going to
starts bouncing down the hill.
Right.
Well, it's kind of like a kid in a tire rolling down a hill.
Yeah.
It's going smooth at first. As soon as the speed starts picking up, that tire starts bouncing with that kid in that wheel.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
So here this side's off just a little bit more, about 1.5 inches, inch and a half ounce, and it's a little up higher. So I'm going to bring it up just a little bit. So it's a little higher up. It's not right at 9 o'clock. All right, so we're going to slow it down now. Take a look at what we got. And you've only got you can either add or subtract, and the crank will tell you what you're going to do. You really don't want to do it on the external pieces, because let's say you tear your flex plate up and you want a new one. Well, if you've already modified it on the balancer, then you really can't buy a new one and just put it on.
Right.
So try to do everything on the crankshaft. That way, if an external piece goes bad, then you can always just replace it, and you'll be fairly close.
That makes sense.
I wouldn't say it's perfect, but let's just take this right.
Hey, I want to stop the video right here and go over something that I assumed was correct. So Brian was just talking about how he was going to make adjustments to the counterbalance of the crankshaft, and he was explaining how he doesn't do the adjustment to the flex plate or the crank pulley. That way, if you have any failure with the crank pulley or the flex plate, you can replace them and everything's still balanced close enough that it won't cause any issues. So I was thinking this was an internally balanced engine then, because he was doing the adjustments and balancing it internally to the engine. I was incorrect. He corrected me on that, and he said that this is still, the 6.0 Powerstroke is still considered an externally balanced engine. And the reason is because I'll show some pictures here of the factory crank pulley and the factory flex plate, and I have arrows pointing at the counterweights that are built onto them. The factory flex plate has a piece of metal welded onto it for a counterweight, and you can see the factory crank pulley has a lip or a portion of it that is not machined out there in the center to add weight. And so this crankshaft is designed to have external balancing on it to aid in balancing the whole assembly. He was explaining that that is why in the video you see he's got the flex plate I'm going to use and the crank pulley I'm using. That way it's all balanced together. So it's not an internally balanced crankshaft, it's an externally. So what's an internally balanced? And he told me, and I've done some reading now to understand it, an internally balanced crankshaft would be balanced without the crank pulley or the flex plate on it. And the crank pulley and the flex plate are actually considered neutral weight, so there's no counterweight added to the crank pulley or the flex plate. I don't know the advantages or disadvantages. I know that I see, a lot of the engines I work on are externally balanced, so maybe there's something, positive with that. But anyway, that was just one thing. I've been doing this for years and never actually knew what the difference. I just always thought it was, externally is, it's the weight is adjusted or the balance is adjusted by the external, and internal is weight is only adjusted internally, but that's not the case. So even though he's doing adjustments to the crankshaft internally, he's doing it there that way, like he said in the video. If a crank pulley or flex plate were to get damaged for some reason, you can easily put a new one on, and you don't need to have it balanced before you put the new part on. So anyway, I thought that was pretty cool, and let's get back to the video.
Side, for example, so it was sitting right about there. So if we come over here, this side's heavy, and this side would be light. So we're going to be sitting around this oil hole, or this hole in the counterweight. We're probably going to have to put a little metal in there.
Okay.
To get that to come out. Otherwise, let's just say it was here. Then you'd have to put a piece of heavy metal in there.
Oh wow, yeah.
So you'd have to drill a piece of heavy metal in it and do that. Now on the other side, the left side, so you're looking at it again, it was more like at 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock, yeah.
So we come down here, and it's heavy on the counterweight. So what we're going to do is we're going to probably drill in this hole a little more to make it lighter.
Okay.
So in this particular crankshaft, we're going to have to do both jobs. Generally, you would always drill because either the bob weight's heavy or light, and your crank is either both sides are going to be heavy, and then you drill them, or both sides you got to weld them. This is kind of unique, but you do have some aftermarket stuff on there. And like I said earlier, this ATI dampener, the information in the thing said they actually put a little extra weight in there so that you can balance it and tweak it in. So
very cool.
That was their game plan. So it's probably what's going on here. So
cool. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to leave Brian to it. That way he can get this going, get it done. We're pretty much at the end of the process. Then I get to take everything home and assemble it. But we'll let you get going, and then I'll check back in with you.
Yeah, I'll get her down, and then we'll come back.
Yeah, that way we can come back and see, watch it spin up again, and see his work. And I'm sure it'll be great. Everything I get from this place is done great. So we'll check in back later. Okay, guys, I'm back here at PMI, and Brian has gotten the crank all balanced up. He had to do a little bit of work to it, but he'll explain what he had to do.
Yep. Basically what we had to do was, like before where it was showing up, this side here was over here on the heavy side, so I had to go in here and basically just, there was these two holes here already. I just made them a little deeper, keep it clean. And then this side here, I had to add weight because it wasn't on the heavy side, it was on the light side, and I welded that hole up that was there. So all worked out really great, and I'll show you the results. We've got the right side locked up, so we got the left side free, so we can see what it's doing. Get the RPM back up to 600.
Yeah, I'd imagine you don't want to just bring that RPM up real quick.
No, it might jump.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit, especially when it gets into balance. It gets funky. It likes to float, because when it's in balance, it starts to move its own thing. You know, it starts to want to go faster on its own. You know, so it gets, you know, to get to that number, sometimes the needle jumps around because it's getting close to balance. So we're getting right there. I don't know if, the mark's still stationary. You could do a little more whenever it gets really close. The mark will start just jumping all over the place.
So before the mark was showing, I think, about the 9 o'clock position?
Yeah, it's sitting over here, correct.
Okay, and so
now it's moved down.
So your goal is to, I guess, be in the 6 o'clock position?
No, that's not the goal. It's just, it starts to walk, I said, you know, it starts to move as it gets closer, because once you get pretty close, then it can take off the other direction.
Oh, okay,
It's working its way back around, you know. That's why whenever you get down to close, you can be chasing your own tail.
Okay.
You know, I mean, you get too close. So that's the left side, looking good, under the 0.25. Wow. Now we're going to lock out the left and loosen up the right. Now we got the RPM up, going a little fast. That's okay. I mean, you go faster, you know. And then you can see the mark is relatively up a little bit, so they're kind of almost getting apart from each other, which is the goal, my goal. So now I'm doing a force effect, which I was explaining to Chris here, that it's like a log rolling down the hill, just a straight log rolling down the hill. So you're looking for the lump effect, you know. So this needle might jump up on the lump effect. And so I'm looking to see what it does. And then the couple effect is like a ball rolling down the hill. So now the thing's wanting to twist and roll down the hill at the same time. So that's what the force and couple does. Now I go back to the force, and then I speed it up because I want to see what it's going to do. And what I'm looking for is that needle to come up and then drop back. And a lot of times, like a Chevrolet or something, I can be up about 1.5, and then it'll just drop back. And I just like to know that it just doesn't go off the screen. But look at that, that's about half that. So that's what we're talking about in balancing world. You know, it comes out of balance, it goes back down. So I'm gonna speed it up a little bit more. So you saw how far it came out of balance there. I don't like to go real fast on here, but see, it's coming up again. Now it went back down again. So that's what you're doing. You're reducing the amount of open and shut in between imbalances, because it comes out of balance all the time. It's just you want to keep it down to a tight, to where you don't feel it, it doesn't affect the engine. So now I'm running about 800 RPM. It's not super fast here, but fast enough for me to stand here.
Yeah.
But, and that's what you got. So,
wow.
Turned out really nice.
It even just being here, you can tell, like earlier,
yeah, it was
when I was here, when he was first spinning up before he did any of the welding or anything on it, you could just tell it wasn't perfect. You could kind of hear the machine, it wasn't real smooth. And now you can just stand here, even at the higher RPM, it ran extremely smooth. You couldn't hear it vibrating. You could just tell it was much happier.
Right.
So very cool, very cool. So no, that's the. I mean, we didn't get to see all the process. He's busy. He's got to do stuff. I didn't want to take up all his time, but that was very cool to experience and a good explanation of how it's balanced, the process of balance. I'll probably spend some time later on in the video going over weighing the odds of whether you need your crank balanced. And I mean, if you're keeping it stock, with it, you know, your crank's in good shape, it doesn't have to have a lot of work or I guess machining done to it. You could stick to not needing it balanced. But if you're a lot of work done to the crank and changing the rods, the pistons, the flex plate, or flywheel, or the crank pulley, you may need to have it balanced. So,
Correct.
yeah.
You just don't know.
You don't know. So yeah. So we're gonna leave Brian and let him get back to work, and then hopefully we'll have some more videos coming where I'm assembling the engine. So we just wrapped up balancing the crankshaft, and everything went great. I was extremely happy with the process. Everything went really smooth. Brian did a great job. I just want to let you know this is not a paid promotion. I did not get anything in return. I paid full price that they said it would be. I just personally asked them if I could record it. I'd never actually gotten to see a crankshaft be balanced or the process of it. And thankfully, Brian was really welcoming and taught me a lot through the process. So I really enjoyed that. And hopefully this helps you guys when you need to balance or when you're building an engine. That way you know, at least if you take the parts into the machine shop and the machinist is talking to you, you can go, hey, okay, I remember in that video they were doing this, they did that, they were talking about this. That way it just helps you a lot. Because I don't have that. I have to do research. Thankfully I have PMI to go talk to, and they have years and years of experience, and they can guide me in the right path. So I really appreciate that. I'm going to put put PMI's website here on the screen. Go check out their website. If I can get that, I'm pretty sure they have a Facebook also. I'll put that on the screen. I'll have everything, link in the description and everything. Also, look forward soon. I'm gonna start building this engine, and really, I have all the parts. No, I need a cam, but I'm pretty close. I almost have all the parts to assemble a short block. And I'm going to do this engine. I'm going to assemble the engine, but I'm going to do everything in stages because I really want to build an engine and start doing power increase and showing you guys, okay, I did this, and here are the numbers that we're getting power-wise, and then we can take a couple steps forward and see what power. So look forward to more videos. I'm shooting to try to at least put up one video a week, probably one every Saturday. That way I can keep getting you guys content, and it pushes me to keep going and get my projects done, which my wife will greatly appreciate, even though I keep spending money. So I'll catch you in the next one. See you later. They're going to lead you in the right direction, hopefully, and that way you can have a good quality engine that you put together and lasts a really long time.
You're saying a lot.
Oh, I do, don't I? What should I say? Do you know what I should say?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
She doesn't even know what I'm talking about. She doesn't even know what I'm talking about. Hey guys, just wrapped up cranking. I completely understand. You know how they show when they show the bloopers?
Yeah.
I get it. I never understood. I'm like, what's so hard about that? Okay. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're in the shop and we're going to do an oil change on my 2013 Ford F-150 with a 3.5 EcoBoost. That doesn't sound very exciting, but what we're going to do is actually install a bypass oil filter system. And I've seen it on a bunch of forums, seen people talk about it on diesels, but I've always wondered about it, and truthfully, if you know, I don't have my diesel running yet because I keep dragging my feet because I'm fixing everybody else's stuff.